What's up, guys? You already know who it is, but today's tips video, I'm gonna be discussing Gibraltar and how you can get better utilization out of, in my opinion, the most important character in the competitive meta. So basically, if your team is not running a Gibraltar, to put it frankly, you're pretty much trolling, in my opinion, and what I would assume a lot of other competitive teams' opinions. So with that being said, let's get right into the tips, guys. Alright, so for my first tip, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you absolutely do not want to waste your bub or use it unnecessarily in competitive play, because mainly your bubble's the most important ability for your team, and it can be the difference from, say, a first place finish to like a 5th place. So you really want to be the last team to use their bubble and have your bubble be the last one standing, pretty much. And some tips to make sure that you use it effectively and don't waste it: you just basically want to watch your teammates' health down here and make sure that they're not going below, I'd say, 60 HP. If they're at that 60 HP mark, I would try to bubble them and keep them alive, because keeping them alive and letting them heal rather than having to revive them in the bubble, then they heal, you can't really get a full heal off at that point. So this clip, I'm going to show you two bubbles, one that is a good bubble and we win the game, and one that is a bad bubble. So this one is an example of a bad bubble where we did not need to use it. Basically, we just got to rotate to this zone. We know there's a team on this high ground up here. Fast forward. Right about here. I call out that you might need bubble, and then at the end I call out that he doesn't. I take pretty much all the damage, but once I get to this point, absolutely nobody's shooting me. I'm at about, I'd say about 80 HP, and they haven't even gotten touched. I'm saying you might need a bub, and then once I get to this, I say you might not need it, but he already threw at that point. He wasn't really looking at the health down here to see that we didn't need it. So basically, we ended up not having bubble for like the next 30, 40 seconds, because we gotta wait for it to go down, then we gotta regen it off the cooldown. And if we had bubble in this scenario, I'll pause it back here. But we could have just bubbled the stairs like right here and then poked this team out and got their spot and got out from this bad position that we were in. By wasting the bubble, we end up not being able to do that. And then this is an example of a good bubble here. Basically, we get angles to force them up here, and then we Gibraltar ult them. And they either have one of two choices. And that is either use bubble and stay on the high ground, or they can drop on the low ground and give us the complete height advantage, which pretty much results in a loss either way. So they jump up and they throw their bubble here, and then I throw mine to counter it to give us cover as well, to help me or dog fall back. Basically now at this point, we both don't have bubbles now coming up here, but we have the better positioning because we have a teammate over here that just pokes them once their bubble drops. You guys probably saw this in my last video, but yeah, we end up winning the game pretty much for free here, and it was just mainly forcing out their bubble and then using ours at the right time and also having just the better position. Alright, my next tip would be to ADS your gun literally as much as possible on Gibraltar, because you just basically get a free 50 HP, and that health can literally make or break a fight once it's all over. So that's basically what you're going to see here. Basically, I throw a bubble to kind of peek and have cover to fall back from without having to jiggle peek this side. So we end up ADSing here, we get a knock, and that ADS shield literally ate up 50 of the damage just basically for free. So you'll see that I live with literally under 50 HP. If I don't have that gun shield, the health I have right here, I would have been dead. But simply by ADSing at that point in the fight, literally ends up saving me, keeping me alive, and letting me win this fight. Without that gun shield health, there's literally no shot I'm alive here. We end up clutching it up for the boys, dude, bringing it home. Honestly, no idea how they lost that, but the gun shield played an insane role right there. Alright, my next tip basically revolves around using Gibraltar's ult effectively. So, like, some of the main things that you can do with this ult are basically force the Gibraltar bubble from a team so they won't have it at the later stage of the game. Like, say they gotta rotate, you throw your ultimate on them with, like, 4 seconds before they have to move. Basically, you could either force out a bubble from them, or they're gonna take all the damage, and then you could easily push up and clear them. Most teams just basically throw their bubble, then they end up not having it for rotate, and then they can end up getting cleaned up. So basically I'm going to show you two ultimates here as well. Both are really good also for picking up KP. But this team had to move out of their spot to the zone. They didn't have a Gibraltar, so they couldn't bubble it. So basically they just ran inside for cover. We end up hitting, I'm pretty sure, all 3 of them with it. And we end up getting a free knock as they're trying to run in there. But then once they get into the building, we literally just nade spam them because they have no escape from the Gibraltar ultimate. We end up getting even more cracks with nades. They peek the doors and we get just a free wipe off of it, just mainly from the alt placement. And then this ultimate over here, this is just basically picking up some extra KP. This wasn't from my POV, this was Vane. I didn't play Gibraltar in our last tournament, so kind of stole some of his footage. Thanks, Vane, for the content. Right here, we notice that they're fighting and that another team threw their Gibraltar ult on it. This is a smart team. CLG is a smart team. So basically, once they see the ultimate come down, they end up chucking their bubble. Well, we thought that they chucked their bubble. We assumed they would because we're also not seeing them get knocked by the ultimate, the kill feed. So we just wait for that to finish. Then we throw our ultimate. And now they're either going to jump off of the high ground and challenge us, low health already from their last fight, or they're going to sit there and eat the ultimate. That's basically what they decide to do, which we end up just killing all 3 of them that you can see from this. They're all just huddled in a corner, pretty much because Sentinels is overlooking them. We got all the KP just simply because of the ultimate, knowing it. Alright, this next tip is basically just prolonging your life on Gibraltar, because in most, for an example here, it's going to be kind of like a bubble fight. For most bubble fights, Gibraltar's the first one in, so usually he gets focused mainly by the other team more. So if you can just do whatever damage you can at the beginning and then keep your life as long as you can, it can lead to your teammates potentially picking up the kills while somebody just tries to focus and clean you up. That's basically what you'll end up seeing here. In Vaxxer in a 2v3, both we have collectively like 50 HP here. We did a good amount of damage to them too though, but basically I just end up holding, kind of just dancing with this guy, using my gun shield to eat up 50 extra HP, just jiggle on the bubble. He gets his bat off. This guy keeps focusing me because he knows I'm 1 HP, so I just basically dance with him, do a quick damager, jump back into the bubble, all while Vax ends up killing this guy. And I just tell him, like, hey, I'm staying alive, just go kill this guy. I'm going to end up dying, but this should be a free fight for you, and it was. And we just basically get a free fight when we had 50 HP collectively, just from dancing around in a bubble and letting, basically, myself get baited so my teammate can do all the work. Alright, this next tip doesn't really have a clip that I can go along with it, but I feel like it's just important to mention for anyone playing Gibraltar and competitive. Basically, you're going to want to make sure that you run a loadout that'll help you in bubble fights. You want to have at least one gun that is pretty much a good bubble fighting weapon. So, there's no coincidence. Most pro teams all run shotguns on their team. They have like 3 shotguns. Some of them have like a wingman on one of them, but the wingman's still pretty good in a bubble fight. You just don't basically want to be caught running like, say, an R9 and a Volt. I mean, some people can make it work, but for the most part, in every single high-level competitive game right now, the one thing that is pretty much guaranteed in every game is that you're going to get into a bubble fight sooner or later. Whether it's in the early game, the late game, the middle game, you're going to probably have a bubble fight. So basically, just make sure you run a weapon that's strong in there, that does a lot of damage quickly, kind of like a wingman or a shotgun, and try to stay away from the snipers unless you don't plan on getting a bubble fight, but I feel like it's inevitable. So just run a shotgun, run a wingman, you'll do yourself a favor, and yeah. Alright, and that is the last tip for this video on Gibraltar, so I hope you guys maybe learned something new that you can utilize on your Gibby gameplay, or just really just reinforce what you may have already known about him. So if you guys enjoyed this video, a like is always much appreciated, and once again, comment below basically what topic you guys want to see next. I know I've seen quite a bit of comments on saying, hey, I want to see a Gibby one, so that's kind of the main reason why I made this one. So with all that being said though, guys, I will see you guys next time.